You're watching Forsaken Joe. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy the story. Let's begin. The first thing I saw was the glow of headlights cutting across our bedroom wall, slicing through the darkness like a blade. It wasn't late enough for delivery trucks, and none of our neighbors drive a car that old, one of those beat-up sedans with a sputtering engine. I got out of bed, my heart already pounding like it knew something I didn't. Lydia wasn't next to me. Her side of the bed was cold, like she'd been gone for hours. I stumbled into the hallway, and that's when I heard the faint sound of voices outside. One male voice, calm and steady. Hers, quieter, like she was trying not to wake me. My chest tightened. When I peeked through the blinds, he was just standing there, not on the sidewalk, not in the car. He was leaning casually against the front gate, as if he had every right to be there. He wasn't nervous. He wasn't even looking at the house. He was just scrolling on his phone, like this was his normal Friday night, waiting for my wife. The door creaked behind me. Lydia was there, wearing that pale blue hoodie she always throws on when she's about to leave the house. She didn't look guilty. She didn't even look surprised to see me standing there. She just sighed and said, "Cliff, don't make this worse. I'll be back in the morning." I couldn't even form words at first. I wanted to grab her hand, to demand answers, but all I could do was whisper, "Who is he?" like a scared kid. She ignored me, just brushed past, her keys jingling in her hand, like I was nothing more than a nosy neighbor. I froze. I didn't stop her. I watched her walk out the door, her steps light and determined. He looked up from his phone and gave this tiny smirk as she got into his car. They didn't rush. They didn't even acknowledge me standing there in the window. My fists clenched so tight my nails dug into my palms. And then, just like that, the car rolled away into the night. I didn't follow. I didn't call. I just stood there, listening to the quiet hum of the refrigerator, feeling like every sound in the house was mocking me. I spent that entire night sitting at the kitchen table, staring at the mug of cold coffee in front of me like it might have an answer. The house felt wrong, like it was holding its breath. Every creak of the wooden floor and every gust of wind outside made me flinch. My mind kept replaying that smirk from the guy at the gate. It wasn't just confidence. It was like he knew something about me, like I was the one who didn't belong in my own home. I wanted to punch a hole in the wall, scream, anything to shake this gnawing feeling, but I just sat there, frozen. When the first light of morning spilled through the windows, the sound of the door unlocking snapped me out of my fog. Lydia walked in, like nothing had happened. Her hair was messy, her hoodie unzipped just enough to show the collar of a shirt I'd never seen before. She tossed her purse on the table, glanced at me, and gave me this look that wasn't angry or sad, just hollow. "Don't start," she muttered. That was all. No apology, no explanation, nothing. She went straight to the shower, leaving me with this sick taste in my mouth, like I'd swallowed a handful of rust. I wanted to ask her where she'd been, who he was, why she thought it was okay to walk out like that. But I didn't. I couldn't. I just sat there, listening to the water running upstairs, every second making me feel smaller. When she left for work later that morning, I finally snapped. I started digging. It began with her purse. I'd never gone through her things before, felt wrong, but I didn't care. I found her phone charger, some receipts, a lip gloss I'd never seen, and then a napkin. It looked ordinary at first, but when I unfolded it, there was a name scribbled in bold black ink. Julian. And underneath it, a phone number. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I typed the number into my phone, but didn't call. Not yet. Instead, I saved it under a fake name like some sort of cowardly spy. Who the hell was Julian? I didn't know, but I knew one thing. This wasn't random. This was him, the guy from last night. The smirk, the way Lydia avoided my eyes. It all came flooding together, and it made me feel like my insides were boiling. I thought about calling her, confronting her, but something told me not to. Instead, I decided to wait, to play it smart for once. Maybe I could catch her in a lie. Maybe I could figure out who this guy was without letting her know I was onto them. But the truth? I was terrified. Terrified that I'd already lost her, and I was just too weak to admit it. By the time night rolled around, I couldn't take it anymore. I sat in the living room, phone in hand, staring at that number on the screen. I was about to hit call when I heard a car pull up outside. My heart stopped. I crept to the window, and there he was, Julian, same car, same smirk. And this time, Lydia wasn't even trying to hide it. I didn't think. I just grabbed my keys and jacket and slipped out the side door as quietly as I could. Julian's car was idling at the curb, and I could see Lydia climbing into the passenger seat like it was the most natural thing in the world. No hesitation, no glance back at the house. Just a woman who looked like she had already left me weeks ago. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped my keys, but I forced myself to get into my car and follow them, staying far enough behind so they wouldn't see me. The night was damp, and the reflection of their taillights on the wet road felt like some twisted beacon dragging me deeper into a place I wasn't ready to see. They drove through the quiet suburbs, past the diner we used to go to, past the park where Lydia and I once sat talking for hours under the stars. I kept waiting for them to stop at some obvious place, a bar, a friend's house, anywhere that made sense, but they didn't. Instead, they took a turn onto an unlit road I'd never been down, lined with trees that looked like black skeletons under the moonlight. My breathing was shallow, every muscle in my body tense. I couldn't understand what was happening. Who was this guy to her? Was he someone from her past? A coworker I'd never met? My mind was spinning with possibilities, each one worse than the last. Then they pulled into this old, run-down motel. One of those places with a flickering neon sign that looks like it hasn't seen a coat of paint in decades. I parked across the street, my heart slamming so hard I could feel it in my throat. They got out of the car, and for the first time, I saw Julian's face under the harsh orange glow of the streetlight. He wasn't just confident, he was cold. His eyes scanned the area like he was checking for threats, like a soldier on enemy ground. Lydia followed him without saying a word. And when he placed a hand on her back to guide her inside, something inside me snapped. I wanted to run across the street and drag her away. I wanted to scream at both of them. But instead, I sat there, paralyzed, watching them disappear through the creaky motel door like I wasn't even real. My fingers hovered over my phone, ready to call her, ready to do something, but I didn't. I just waited. Minutes turned to an hour, maybe more. I couldn't tell anymore. My thoughts were a storm, each one darker and more desperate than the last. What if this wasn't what it looked like? What if there was some insane explanation? And then another thought crept in. What if she wasn't coming back this time? What if this was the night everything ended? When the motel door finally opened again, I sat up so fast I almost hit my head on the roof of the car. Julian came out first, looking around with that same cold sharpness. Then Lydia followed, her hair a mess, her hoodie zipped up all the way like she was hiding from me, from everything. They didn't speak as they got back into the car. They just drove off like nothing happened. I waited until they were gone before I even started my engine, my hands shaking so violently I could barely keep the car on the road. I didn't follow them this time. I just drove home in silence, the image of that motel sign burning in my mind. When I walked into the house, everything looked the same as I'd left it. Our pictures on the wall, her shoes by the door, like nothing had happened. But I knew everything had changed. When Lydia came home the next morning, sunlight was bleeding through the curtains, and I was still sitting in the same chair I'd been in all night. I hadn't slept a single minute, my mind looping that image of her walking into the motel with him, like a broken film reel. She walked in quietly, as if nothing had happened, as if I wasn't sitting there waiting for her with a chest full of rage and questions I was too afraid to ask. Her hair was damp, like she'd showered somewhere else, and there was this faint, unfamiliar scent clinging to her clothes, something sharp, like aftershave mixed with smoke. She glanced at me and froze, just for a moment, but then kept moving, tossing her keys on the counter like it was just another Tuesday morning. That tiny act of normalcy lit something inside me like gasoline. "Who is he?" I asked. My voice wasn't loud, but it felt like it ripped through the silence. She stopped halfway up the stairs and turned, her face unreadable. "Don't do this, Cliff," she said flatly, as if I was being unreasonable. "Don't do what?" I snapped, standing up so fast the chair screeched against the floor. "Don't ask why my wife is walking into a goddamn motel with some stranger in the middle of the night." Her expression hardened, but she didn't deny it. She just stared at me, her eyes cold. That silence cut deeper than any words could. I stepped closer, my hands trembling. "Tell me, Lydia, who the hell is Julian? Because I found his name. I found his number. I followed you. I saw everything. So, tell me, what is this? Are you cheating on me? Are you just done?" My voice cracked, and I hated how desperate I sounded, but I couldn't stop. She looked at me for a long moment, then sighed, this tired, heavy sound, like I was some burden she'd been carrying for years. "Cliff, You don't want to know who he is, she said quietly. You're better off not knowing. Those words didn't make sense. Better off not knowing, I repeated, almost laughing, but there was no humor in it. Are you kidding me? You vanish in the middle of the night, leave with some guy I've never seen, and you think I don't have the right to know? Her jaw clenched, and for the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. Real fear. He's not what you think, she muttered. This isn't an affair, Cliff. It's something else. Something I can't explain right now. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. What does that even mean? I shouted. You can't explain right now? You think I'm going to just sit here like a fool while you sneak off with him again? She took a step toward me, her face pale. If you follow me again, you might regret it. Please, just trust me this once. Her words chilled me in a way I didn't expect. There was something in her tone, something darker than guilt, but I couldn't trust her, not anymore. That night, when she went to bed, I sat in the living room, staring at Julian's number on my phone. I knew I had to find out for myself. If she wouldn't tell me the truth, I'd drag it out of him. I didn't sleep at all. By morning, I had made up my mind. I was going to call him, and if he didn't give me answers, I'd find him. The next morning felt unreal, like I'd slipped into some alternate version of my own life, where nothing made sense anymore. Lydia acted like the night before hadn't even happened, moving around the kitchen, making coffee, humming under her breath. Every casual motion of hers made me feel like I was being mocked, like I was the only one drowning in this nightmare while she floated above it all, untouchable. I barely said a word to her. I didn't trust myself to speak, because I knew if I opened my mouth, it would all come spilling out. The anger, the confusion, the panic clawing at my throat. She'd left for work just before 9, like any normal day, leaving me alone in the house that no longer felt like mine. I sat there with my phone in my hand, staring at Julian's number in my contacts. My thumb hovered over the call button for what felt like an hour. I don't know what I expected. Maybe I thought he'd answer and laugh in my face, or maybe I thought he'd deny everything. But I had to hear his voice. I had to know who this guy was, because the not knowing was eating me alive. When I finally pressed call, my heart slammed so hard I thought I might pass out. The line rang once, twice. Then I heard a voice, low, smooth, but with this strange sharpness to it. Clifford, he said, before I could even speak. I froze. He knew my name. My blood turned to ice. Who the hell is this? I demanded, trying to sound angry, but my voice came out weak, like I was already beaten. You don't want to go down this road, he replied calmly, almost with amusement. Stay out of this, and you'll keep your life exactly as it is. Push, and you'll find out things you'll wish you hadn't. I felt this cold sweat break across my back. What are you talking about? What do you want with my wife? Are you threatening me? There was a pause on the line, just silence thick enough to choke on. Then he said, She came to me, Clifford. She needed me, and you've been in the way for a long time. Stop following her. Stop calling this number. If you really want to keep her, you'll pretend you never saw me. And then he hung up. I just sat there, staring at the phone like it had just burned me. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped it. His words weren't just a threat. They felt like something worse. Like he knew something about me I didn't. And the way he said, keep her, it sounded like Lydia wasn't just choosing to leave me, like she was being pulled into something far bigger than just another man. By the time Lydia came home that evening, I had already convinced myself I needed to push harder. I couldn't just sit back and let some stranger dictate the fate of my marriage. I tried to confront her again, but she shut me down instantly. She looked me dead in the eyes and said, Cliff, if you call him again, you're going to regret it. I'm serious. This isn't about cheating, it's about something you can't handle. Please, just let it go. I couldn't. I can't. That night, when she went upstairs, I sat in the dark living room, listening to every sound of the house, waiting for her to fall asleep. My heart was pounding because I already knew what I had to do. I was going to find Julian in person. I didn't care if he was dangerous or if Lydia hated me for it. I needed answers, and I'd get them, even if it meant tearing apart every last piece of my life to find the truth. That night, I couldn't stop pacing. I must have walked 100 laps through the living room and kitchen, back and forth, every creak of the floorboards echoing in my ears like accusations. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. I was done waiting for Lydia to tell me the truth, because it was clear she never would. Whatever this Julian guy had over her, whatever hold he had on our marriage, I was going to tear it out of the shadows. I didn't care if I looked like a desperate fool. I was desperate. My life was unraveling, and I wasn't about to just sit and watch it fall apart piece by piece. I started with the only clue I had, the number on that napkin. I couldn't call him again, not after the way he answered the first time. His voice had chilled me to my core, like he already knew every secret I was trying to hide from myself. But a phone number can tell you a lot if you dig deep enough. I spent hours trying to trace it, searching online, scrolling through shady forums, anything that could give me a hint. Most of it was useless, fake leads and scams. But then I found a name. Not Julian, something else. The number was linked to a car repair shop on the edge of town, a place that looked like it hadn't seen real business in years. By the time the clock struck midnight, I had already made up my mind. I grabbed my keys, my jacket, and drove there. The streets were empty, and the farther I got from the neighborhoods I knew, the more it felt like I was crossing into some place I wasn't supposed to be. The repair shop was a dump, a squat building with peeling paint and a crooked sign, but there was light on inside. A single light, flickering like it might die any second. I parked down the street, my heart hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. That's when I saw it, the same dark green Chevy I'd seen in front of my house. I knew I'd found him. I sat there for a few minutes, gripping the steering wheel, trying to summon some kind of courage. What was I going to say? What was I going to do if I saw him? He wasn't just some random guy anymore. He felt like a predator, and I was the prey. I didn't even get the chance to decide. As I stared at the building, the front door creaked open, and there he was, Julian, or whoever the hell he really was. He looked taller this time, broader, like the shadows made him bigger than life. He didn't see me at first. He was talking to someone on his phone, his voice low but sharp. I rolled my window down just enough to hear. I told her to stay quiet, he said, pacing slowly under the buzzing light. If he calls again, we'll have to speed things up. No, I don't care if he finds out. He's already too close. My stomach dropped. He was talking about me. There was no doubt. I slid down in my seat, my breathing ragged. Every instinct told me to leave, to just drive away, but I couldn't. I stayed there, listening, every word he spoke burning into me. He hung up a moment later and turned toward the street. For a second, I swear he looked right at my car, like he knew I was there. I froze, holding my breath, not even daring to blink. Then, with a small smirk, he walked back inside. I drove home in silence, gripping the wheel so tightly my knuckles ached. I didn't know what game this man was playing, but I was done pretending this was just about my marriage. There was something bigger happening here, something I didn't understand. When I got home, Lydia was asleep in bed, her breathing calm and steady like she didn't have a care in the world. I stood there in the doorway, staring at her, wondering who she really was. I know one thing for sure now. Julian isn't just some guy she's seeing. There's something about him, something dangerous, and she's caught up in it. Whether by choice or by force, I don't know. But tomorrow, I'm going back. I'm going to confront him face to face, and if he's hiding something, I'll rip it out of him. The next day, I couldn't focus on anything. I called in sick to work, not because I was physically ill, but because I felt like my entire world was tilting off its axis. I couldn't stop replaying Julian's voice from the night before. The way he'd said, "He's already too close." What did that mean? What was I close to? It wasn't just about Lydia anymore. I could feel that in my bones. This was something darker, something she was caught in and refusing to tell me. By mid-afternoon, I had worked myself into such a frenzy that I knew I had no choice. I had to confront him. I had to look this guy in the eye and get the truth out of him, even if I didn't like what I heard. I drove back to that decrepit repair shop, but this time I parked right in front. No hiding, no sneaking around. I wanted him to know I was there. The air was thick with the smell of rust and gasoline, and as I stepped out of my car, I felt this strange pressure in my chest, like walking into a storm I couldn't see. The shop door was slightly ajar, and I could hear faint music playing inside, an old blues track crackling through a cheap speaker. I pushed the door open and stepped into the dim interior. Julian was there, leaning over the hood of some battered car, his hands covered in grease. He looked up, and for a second, I saw a flicker of recognition in his eyes, but he didn't look surprised. He almost looked amused. "Well," he said, wiping his hands on a rag, "the husband finally shows up. I was wondering how long it would take you." I felt my fists clench automatically. "Who the hell are you, Julian? What do you want with my wife?" My voice cracked slightly, and I hated how small it made me sound, but I pressed on. "If you think you can just—" He cut me off with a laugh. Not a loud laugh, but a low, cold one that sent a chill up my spine. Clifford, you really have no idea, do you? Lydia came to me. She needed me to fix something you couldn't. And now you're meddling in something you don't understand. What are you talking about? Fix what? I demanded. I took a step closer, my voice rising. Is this about money? Are you blackmailing her? What the hell's going on? Julian's eyes narrowed and he leaned on the car, looking at me like I was a child. You think this is about money? That's cute. No, this is bigger, much bigger, and your wife knows exactly why she's here. She's not your little perfect Lydia anymore. She's mine now, whether you like it or not. That last line hit me like a hammer. I lunged at him, grabbing his shirt, but he didn't even flinch. He stared me down with this unshakable calmness, like he'd been expecting me to break. You're weak, he whispered. You're so busy crying over your marriage that you can't see what's right in front of you. Do you even know who your wife really is? I froze, my grip loosening. What do you mean? I asked, my voice barely a whisper now. Julian smirked and stepped back, brushing off his shirt like I was nothing. Ask her, he said. But don't be surprised if you don't like the answer. Lydia's been living a double life for a long time. You were just too blind to see it. I stood there, trembling, my thoughts spinning out of control. A double life? Lydia? None of it made sense. I wanted to demand answers, but Julian had already turned his back on me, as if I wasn't worth another word. Get out, Clifford, he said over his shoulder. Go home. You have one night to decide if you really want the truth. But once you know, there's no going back. I stumbled out of the shop, my head pounding, my stomach twisting like I might throw up. What was he talking about? Was Lydia really hiding something bigger than an affair? When I got home, I saw her sitting at the kitchen table, her phone in her hand, her face pale as a ghost. She looked up at me, and in that instant, I knew. Julian was right about one thing. She was keeping something from me, and whatever it was big. When I walked into the kitchen that evening, Lydia was already waiting for me. She wasn't pretending anymore. Her phone lay face down on the table, her hands clasped tightly as if she'd been bracing for this moment. For the first time in days, she looked at me not with coldness or distance, but with something raw. Fear, sadness, and maybe even love. Cliff, she said softly, her voice trembling. We need to talk. No lies this time. I sat down across from her, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it would burst. I wanted to yell, to demand answers, but I didn't. I just stared at her, waiting. She took a deep breath and started to speak. It's not what you think. Julian isn't... He's not my lover, Cliff. He's my brother. My brain froze. Brother? The word hung in the air like smoke. I couldn't process it. I stammered, What are you talking about? You told me you didn't have any siblings. Her eyes welled up with tears. I lied. I had to. Julian and I, our family was complicated. Our father, he was into some bad things. Julian left when I was 17 because it was the only way to keep me safe. He's been hiding for years. A few months ago, he came back into my life, but not because he wanted to, because someone from our past found him. He's been trying to fix things, clean up the mess our father left behind, and I didn't tell you because I thought you'd leave me if you knew how broken my family was. I felt like someone had ripped a blindfold off me. Everything clicked, the secrecy, the phone calls, the fear in her eyes. This wasn't betrayal, it was survival. I leaned back, trying to catch my breath as the weight of my assumptions crushed me. Why didn't you just tell me? I asked quietly. Because I was ashamed, she whispered. I thought you'd look at me differently. Julian's been protecting me from people who want money my father owed years ago. That's why we went to that motel, because it's the only place they wouldn't find us. He wasn't smirking at you to hurt you. He was watching to make sure you weren't being followed. He's rough around the edges, but he's trying to help me. And now you. The silence between us stretched for what felt like forever. I wanted to be angry for all the lies, but I couldn't. Not after hearing the truth. I stood up, walked around the table, and knelt beside her chair. I took her hands in mine and felt them shaking. Lydia, I don't care what your past is. I don't care what your family did. You're my wife, and I should have trusted you instead of following you like a paranoid wreck. I'm sorry. She broke down then, sobbing into my shoulder, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something break inside me too. Not anger, but the wall I'd built between us. We stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other, letting all the fear and tension drain out. Later that night, Julian actually came by. For the first time, we talked like human beings. He wasn't the monster I'd built up in my mind. He explained everything, how he'd been trying to keep Lydia safe, how the threats against her were real, but now that things were finally under control, he'd be leaving soon. Before he left, he looked me in the eye and said, "Take care of her, Clifford. She deserves someone who'll fight for her, not against her." In that moment, I understood. This wasn't the end of us. If anything, it was the beginning of something stronger. Lydia and I stayed up until dawn, talking about everything we'd never talked about. Her past, my insecurities, our future. And for the first time in a long time, I felt hope. I thought I'd lost her. I thought my marriage was dead. But in some strange, twisted way, all of this, the lies, the fear, Julian, brought us back together. Now I know one thing for certain. I will never let my paranoia or fear drown the woman I love again. Lydia's not just my wife. She's my partner, my best friend, and the person I'd follow through any storm.